All right, I wanted to get on here and do a quick video on diagnosing an issue if your pump on your Boss machine gets stuck in the up or down position. There are a few things it could be, but I always first check the directional valve, which is this piece on the back side of the console or the cabinet where all your stuff is. And now this is a newer model and it has a different deal right here. But on most of the older models, there would be a brass flathead screw that you can actually, with the air turned on, you can twist it. Say if the pump is in the down position, you would go to this side because that's where the hose that would put air to the bottom to make it go up. You would twist that screw from one position to the other. I think it's 1 and 0, but you would, whatever position it's in, you would twist it to the other. I can't remember if it's 1 or 0. But anyways, and that should force air into this without having to use the electronics. And if you can do that and it goes up, then go ahead and twist it back to original position and go on the other side and twist that screw, and that'll send air to the hose on the top, and it should send the pump back down. If that does that, that means your workings on the inside of the directional valve are working correctly. But it could be something electronic. Over here on the side, you have these electric magnets, these blue pieces right here, that senses the bar when it goes by and tells the directional valve which way to go. It's a little spool valve in there, and makes it go left or right, sending it to the lower hose or the upper hose. So if these little magnet sensors here, if they go bad, sometimes they can short out or something. Usually you'll be able to feel the top of it or something warp, and because it got hot. A lot of times this happens if you have electrical issues, generator surged or something like that. But if it is that, say it's stuck in one position, those gray wires on the, and I don't know if it'd be exactly colored, but they come into the back of the machine right here. And I want you to notice how they go to this little terminal here. And you notice the white wires are hooked together. That's basically your neutrals. Okay, they're hooked together on one. And then you got a brown wire on the left and right. This is on the right side of the terminal, and it's going to be on the first and third screw from the back going forward. So if it's stuck in one position, you have to find out which wire is going up. So if it's this wire is the wire that senses that it's up, then if you swap the two browns around, and if you turn your machine back on and it goes down, then you know your magnet on the top is out. Or vice versa, if you stuck in the bottom, you find the wire that goes with the magnet on the bottom, and you find which of the brown wires come out of it. That would be the one right here on number 3. You would swap it with number 1. That will be confusing the electronics and telling it that the pump is in the up position and needs to go down, but it's actually in the down because you swap them back and forth. I hope that makes sense. But that'll tell you if one of your magnets is bad. Also, another thing that could cause it that I've seen is the connection on the side of your directional valve. These just unscrew, and if these get loose, that are on this rod here, that can that can not be making good contact. Sometimes that might do it. Or it could just be that your directional valve itself is possibly, just needs some lubrication. Sometimes that's a deal as well. So you can loosen up these swivel fittings right here and up here and put some oil down in the line, like some air tool oil or even the DOP oil that they give you with the machine. You can put some, squirt it down inside the line, and then put some, go ahead and squirt a little oil so you can lubricate the air motor too. And then you can turn your screws and make it go up and down and kind of get everything lubricated and see if that does it. So the electronics though is the thing, and you have to find the wires and then try to swap them around. The two brown wires, swap them around to see if it'll make it go down, and that'll tell you one of your magnets is bad. Another thing that could cause it is the relays that send the power back and forth. So sometimes these can wiggle out and and you want to just make sure they're plugged in all the way, because if they were bouncing around a lot, they could come unplugged. And you see where it plugs in down there, and there's only one way it can go in. You just got to make sure those are plugged in good and tight. And then check all the screws and all of the wires here. Every screw, make sure everything is tight, because sometimes things can just come loose. Another thing that could be happening is, maybe your toggle switch has burned up. And of course, you can bypass the toggle switch. It's basically just a, hot wire coming into one side and going out the other. So if you wanted to check your toggle switch, you could just take this screw right here, the blue and yellow, and basically take this screw loose and move that wire over onto the yellow one and loosen that screw and tighten them to where the two are touching, and that'll basically bypass your toggle switch here, your pressure cylinder switch. So it'll be constantly on if you have it in that position. So that's another thing to check, is the toggle switch. Now the transformer, I don't know a whole lot about how to check that, other than, make sure these wire nuts are connected well and everything. Make sure it doesn't look like it's got black on the side where maybe it got too hot and smoked. But most of the time, it's usually the magnets is one thing, or the directional valve is getting stuck because it needs lubrication, or maybe even needs to be replaced. I know this is a lot of information. You might have to watch it a couple times to understand, but it's pretty simple setup once you know how everything works. So directional valve has air coming into it from the bottom, and there's a valve inside there that sends the air to this hose or this hose. And the only way the directional valve knows how to do that is if these solenoids, or I'm not sure what they call them, on the side pushes that valve to one side, and this one pushes it to the other, and that'll tell it to go to the lower hose or the upper hose. And the way it senses it is by these electric magnets here that sense the metal going past it, and that tells it, hey, you need to go the other direction. So through these relays and all these wire connections, that's what's going on. It's a simple, passage of information, I guess you could say, and the current tells which side to go to, and it's pretty simple setup. But I just wanted to kind of point out ways to check the magnets, check your directional valve, and make sure your relays are plugged in good, and even able to bypass the toggle switch to make sure it's not that. Hope this is helpful to someone, and if y'all have any questions, you can always call me at 936-558-3307.